So in this part of the series, we're going to work on checking the values the user provides us before we insert them into our database. So the first thing we want to do is check, does the username already exist in the database? So to do that, what we need to do is create another query. And in this query, we want to pass username as the parameter. So we create an array and we say username is equal to username, just like we did below. What we want to do is negate this so that we're checking if the user doesn't exist, then we want to add them to the database. And then before we can run this, we need to go back to our DB class, and here we're not returning any data anymore, so we need to actually fix that. So we could just do something really simple. We could say if explode query, comma, space. So we're exploding our query on spaces, and then we want to access the first element of the returned array, which is going to be the first keyword. So we put in 0 to access the first keyword, which in the case of the first query would be insert, and in the second query would be select. So what we do is we say if the first keyword is equal to select, then we will run this. Otherwise we won't. And that should fix the error we would have been otherwise getting. So before we try this, we'll say else echo user already exists. And before we run it, we need to just swap these parameters around. And let's try and run that now. So let's click create account. It says user already exists. If we go back to our table and try and refresh it, you can see no user was inserted. If I try to add another user and I click create account, you can see it says success, and that new user was added. So after checking if the user already has been entered into the database, we want to check the length of the username. So we want to say if strlen username is less than or equal to 3 and strlen username is less than equal to 32, which is the maximum number we picked when we created our table. And we want to change that to greater than or equal to. Then we'll allow the user to be registered, otherwise invalid username. Next, what we want to do is check the characters in the username. So what we want to do is we want to say if preg match, which is PHP's regular expression matching function, and we want to pass it a regular expression. So we have to have two delimiters, which are these two forward slashes. Then we put in square brackets, and then after the square brackets we put a plus. Then inside the square brackets we want to put our regular expression. So we're going to allow lowercase a to z, uppercase a to z, and 0 to 9, and we're going to allow underscores, and we're going to check the username. So if it matches that expression, we'll allow the user to register that username, otherwise we'll say invalid username. Next, we're going to check the email address is valid. So to do that, we'll just use PHP's filter var method like this, and then we'll say if the email is valid, then we'll allow the user to be registered, otherwise invalid email. And then finally, when we insert the password, we don't want to insert the actual user's password. We want to insert a hashed version of the password. So we want to use PHP's built-in function called password underscore hash. And the type of hash we want to use is called bcrypt. So let's try and run this now. And actually, just before we do, the password should have a minimum length. So in here, what we'll do is we'll say if strlen password is greater than 6, greater than or equal to 6, and strlen password less than or equal to 60. Then we'll say the password's valid, else we'll say echo invalid password. So let's try and run this now. So we'll just try and insert a new user first, and howCode's already been inserted, so we'll just do howCode 1. We'll click create account, and the password is too short actually. So now it says success. We will go to the database, check the content tab, and you can see there's our hashed password, there's our username, and there's our email. We'll try to insert an invalid email, so we'll just put in any username, a password that's the correct length, and we'll put in any sort of email. So Google Chrome's telling us to put an @ in, so let's just do that and see does this work. And PHP has told us the email wasn't valid. So that's it for our validation. We're storing the username, the password, and the email, and we've hashed the password to keep it secure. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. In the next part, since we just finished registering users, in the next part we will be logging in users, and that's actually quite a lot more interesting. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.